one could have thought that a man who was in hundreds of episodes of a popular TV show that millions of people around the world loved would one day be locked up in a federal prison. But the truth is even worse than what was told. Rick Harrison is in prison for life because he is facing major charges of fraud and money laundering. Not only that, but the inmates who used to watch him on TV now hate and abuse him like a lost hero. What makes a well-liked TV star so easy to target in a system known for being strict? Should someone with fame avoid strong punishments, or does it make them more likely to get them? Feel free to leave your ideas below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell to make sure you don't miss any more shocking stories. Harrison no longer lives in the public eye. His life is now very different. Rick Harrison has been known for years as a loving father, a smart businessman, a charming TV figure, and someone who is very good at judging the value of old things. But there is a very dark side to them that not many people saw coming. Fans are becoming less interested in Rick as things that were once hidden are slowly revealed. Not the reporters or the press, but close friends and business partners were the first to have doubts. There were rumors in the Las Vegas business world in 2016 about shady deals, undocumented imports, and bad investment. This was during the height of the show Pawn Stars, which had millions of watchers every week. Even though Rick was famous, he couldn't avoid the attention of the police. In 2017, things started to change when the FBI looked into money laundering in Nevada's adult entertainment business in a bigger way. Las Vegas was found to be a hub for cash flows that can't be tracked. Businesses with a lot of customers, like Rick's pawn shop, were quickly looked at more closely. Even though they weren't named right away, a bunch of strange financial papers started to show up around the middle of 2018, have something to do with businesses that bear Rick Harrison's name. Things had gone crazy by late 2024. A raid was done early in the morning on Rick's multi-million-dollar Las Vegas home. A bunch of papers, hard drives, cash, and other things connected to fake businesses were taken away. News sites like CNN, Fox News, and TMZ all reported on the story, which spread like wildfire. When Rick was handcuffed and led to his car, his face became tense and anxious as dozens of cameras flashed. The pictures of Rick with a confident smile were changed. It was official in April 2025 that Rick Harrison was charged with several felonies, including plot to launder money and wire fraud. The accusation said that he used his business as a front to get money that didn't belong to him legalized. Some of them were said to be connected to fishy things going on in several states. In court, emails, recordings, and contracts were used as electronic proof that Rick was directly involved in these actions. The defense team said that Rick was tricked by his co-workers and didn't have any say in the business as a whole. But the prosecutors showed a lot of strong proof that showed he was involved in planning the transactions. Rick Harrison was sentenced to life in jail without the chance of parole after a tense trial that lasted several months. It was a shocking end to the life of an iconic American TV character. The people had mixed feelings. Someone thought he deserved what he got while someone else was shocked. However, not many people knew what would happen next. Even though the case was over, Rick Harrison's real woes had just started. He was no longer the star of a hit show because he had lost his power and fame. In this world, consequences were much harsher than the law said they should be. Being tortured physically and mentally in a place where fame didn't matter and staying alive was the most important thing. Right away, the first two shocks came while I was in jail. Rick Harrison was sent to a medium-security federal prison in Nevada after the decision. The prison has more than 1,200 prisoners, ranging from drug dealers to murderers. People in and out of jail couldn't stay away from Rick because he had a long history of bad behavior and a well-known name. In a strange way, his good name, which had helped him get jobs in the media, now hurt him. Following him inside the jail walls, Rick could tell the difference from the first day. The recording studio, the cheers, and the people looking for autographs were all gone. Instead, there were cold stairwells and prisoners who were used to being alone, but were now seeing one of their most familiar faces. His appearance was like new bait, an unexpected prize for people who wanted to put him down or control him, or use him in some way to make the jail more brutal. The Bureau of Justice Statistics found that prisoners with a name or who had been in the news were 4 times more likely to be physically assaulted than other prisoners. That number wasn't just a number for Rick. He could feel the danger every time he left his cell with it. At first, Rick tried to blend in by avoiding eye contact, not talking, and following the rules to the letter. But in jail, being quiet isn't a choice. It's a sign of weakness. And people never accept weakness. The guards didn't pay any extra attention to him because they were used to working with famous prisoners. Some people were even mean, seeing Rick as just another famous person who had been jailed. During roll call, one guard said, "Don't think that being on TV will get you out of here. You are now 98,416 tapa." That lack of care left a dangerous hole. Rick has no one to look out for him, and being alone was dangerous in a world where the rules were written in blood, hands, and fear. Rick got 3 vague threats in his first week on the job. A wet towel was thrown into his cell, there was a broken razor blade next to his bed, and there was a piece of paper rolled up that said, "Hollywood here." Even though no one took the blame, the message was clear. He wasn't wanted, and even a small mistake could cost him a lot of money. Everyone in the prison was always looking at Rick. Not just one group, but almost all of them. People talked about him behind closed doors, stared at him in the dining room, and often skipped over in the food line. He quickly changed the way he thought. For 3 seconds he couldn't hold his gaze on anything. He used to be a leader, make choices quickly and act for the cameras. No longer was sleep a safe place to be. He woke up to the sound of scary laughter or the strong feeling that someone was watching him, because everything around him could be seen as a danger. Rick started to lose his cool and panic. There was more violence than just punches. There was also quiet, looks of contempt, and being alone with no one to talk to. Every night in jail, I would wake up and ask myself, will I make it through tomorrow? This was the first form of psychological torture. The Prison Policy Initiative found that 70% of strikes happen in the first 1 to 3 weeks after being abused verbally or mentally. That didn't look like Rick was going to change. Nothing could help him, and there was no way out. That hurt the most. There were no punches at the start of the breakdown. Instead, his mental health slowly got worse. Rick Harrison used to be in charge of all negotiations, but now his own fear was getting in the way. As soon as the third attack happened, about 3 weeks after Rick Harrison got there, the threats turned into action. It happened on a hot June afternoon, when prisoners had 45 minutes to go outside and get some fresh air or talk to other people without being closely watched. Even though the jail yard was big, no one was safe from being watched. It wasn't just a place to relax. It was an underground battleground where fear and blood changed roles and power. Rick went outside like he did every day. He picked a quiet spot next to an old concrete bench next to the barbed wire, away from the groups of prisoners who were lifting weights, smoking, or playing basketball. Today was different though. 4 guys, all of whom had been in cell C before, started to walk up to him. A tall, tattooed man named Vince led the way. He was known as the enforcer in the jail. Vince told the TV mogul, "Hey, come here," not too loudly, but just loud enough for people to hear him. "You used to make a lot of money from TV, why are you so scared right now?" Rick tried to stay cool by looking at the ground and didn't answer. Vince didn't stop though. He walked up to Rick, put his hand on his shoulder and told him, "Out here you're nothing." Vince didn't stop yet and pushed Rick to the ground. There was a soft laugh from the group, then a hard punch to the chest and another to the chin. As if he didn't see, the guard stood far away. No one stepped in. It got quiet in the yard. And that's when Rick Harrison was struck for the first time. The group left quickly, like nothing had happened. Rick was lying there with a swollen face and red, broken lips. No one came to help. A more experienced prisoner took Rick to the hospital without making a sound until the yard bell rang. Nurses cleaned up the cut, put a bandage around his ribs, and gave him painkillers. No one reported it, no one was charged, and nothing bad happened. The event was brushed off as a small one. Rick, on the other hand, changed after being hit. He felt like he had no control for the first time. There are no rules or safety nets, just the harsh truth. Someone who had everything before now had nothing. Over the next few days, Rick began to understand how harsh jail law was. There was no middle ground. Each prisoner was part of a group, and Rick who wasn't part of any group, was now a target. Then there was Frank, a prisoner who had been there for more than 18 years and was well liked by everyone in the neighborhood. He didn't hit Rick, but he did offer something. He sat next to Rick in the cafeteria one afternoon and told him, "I can protect you, but you need to be valuable." Rick didn't understand and was confused. Frank gave a smile. "You know people, how to move money, and how to get people to trust you. That's important, but you need to pick a side. People will look for you if you don't." Rick knew that if he said no, he would be picked on for life, and if he said yes, he would lose all of his self-respect. He used to run a legal business empire, but now he has to work in the drug and money laundering underground jail economy, which is run by criminal groups and even guards. The prisoners trusted Rick, and he knew that agreeing meant giving up. He worked as a chronicler, keeping track of secret deals between groups and using his mind to plan criminal tactics. In exchange, he was kept safe. No more beatings or threats. But now he was looked down upon in silence. They stopped beating him, but their faces showed that they felt bad for him. No longer was he a well-liked TV star, but a man in need of safety from dangerous people. Rick had lost faith in everyone. He wrote notes in the margins of a Bible in his cell, which looked like a confession. "I messed up. But did I earn this?" He pulled away from everything. They didn't talk unless they had to, avoided eye contact, and were always on guard. That, however, only made him a target for another kind of pain. Mental damage. Others were making fun of him without hitting him, so he didn't need to be hit. Someone would ask, "Where's your camera crew?" every time he walked by. Or, "No fake TV." The sarcastic comments and mocking whistles always broke him down while he washed the dishes. Rick started to feel scared. He had terrible dreams about being dragged out into the yard and killed. He couldn't sleep. It was hot and sweaty when he woke up, but he couldn't tell anyone. The jail had a program to help depressed inmates with their mental health, but Rick never signed up. He was afraid it would make him look weak, and being weak in jail meant death. The National Institute of Corrections says that prisoners who were tortured mentally for a long time, instead of physically, were 3 times more likely to have serious anxiety. Rick was used as an example. His mind wasn't broken by being beaten, but by being watched all the time, being made fun of, and losing his identity. People no longer thought of Rick Harrison as a TV mogul. He was just a thing that could be used, traded, and then forgotten about while he was in jail. The worst part was that he started to believe it. After 4 beatings, Rick began a new phase in his 3rd month in prison that was not one of getting used to his new surroundings, but one of falling apart completely. Though Rick thought he was safe because he had picked a side and agreed to help Frank's group, people don't stay friends for long in jail though, and being on the wrong side can be like being killed slowly. It all started with an attempt to sneak cigarettes into the country that went wrong. A package that was hidden in the laundry room never got where it was supposed to go, and the prisoner who was guilty was caught by the guards. Quickly, word got around the yard that someone had told on him. Rick's name was the first to be whispered. He was the quiet one, the scribe, the stranger. In a world where being quiet was often a sign of betrayal, everyone thought he was guilty. Rick could tell that the air was different. The men who used to protect him turned their backs on him. Frank tried not to look at her. 2 of his goons who had sat with him at lunch were no longer there. There was no notice and no safety. It was the best warning for Rick. He was left to take care of himself. The attack took place on Wednesday during lunch break when the prisoners were free to move between the yard and the shared areas. Rick took a break from his work and walked alone to the far part of the yard, where he often went. This time, no, there was no one there. There is no group and no talk. The creepy quiet, like in old gangster movies before the killings, was the first sign that something was wrong for Rick. 3 guys jumped out from behind a small utility shed at the end of the yard. Vince was one of them. He was the one who attacked Rick in his first week. Vince wasn't with the old group this time, though. The other 2 were Latino prisoners who were part of a group that was against Franks. In jail, it was clear what happens when different groups work together. No one was coming to protect the target, who was marked. Vince asked Rick, "Where are you going, Hollywood?" as he turned and walked toward the building. "Do you think we don't have a date?" They were on him before he could do anything. He fell over after getting hit in the jaw and then kicked in the ribs. Someone else grabbed his hair and hit him over the head with the ground. He was drenched in blood. Rick didn't scream or fight back. He was weak and didn't have any instincts to stay alive, so he gave up. Not even a minute of the attack was enough to break 2 ribs at cheekbone and put his right leg out of place. The attackers didn't try to get away when the guards ran over. They just walked away. They were right when they said there would be no probe. The event was described as a fight between prisoners that was settled within the prison. Rick was moved to a different cell and then taken to the hospital where his injuries could be seen on the inside. But the worst damage, which could not be seen on an MRI, was in his thoughts. Rick didn't talk for 3 days. He wouldn't eat or drink, and he wouldn't go to therapy. A psychologist came to see Rick in jail, but he turned away from the wall. He whispered, "I don't even know who I am anymore," and a nurse heard him. There were early signs of major sadness. The first thing he did was deny that he had been loved by millions of people. Then anger built up, not at the person who hurt him, but at himself for letting everything go wrong. Then give up. He thought, would anyone care if I died? The fixation got worse. Rick started to dream about old things he used to love. They were now broken, with clock faces smashed and figureheads cut off. The signs of happiness and meaning were now pictures of a life that was over. His worst fear was being betrayed by everyone he had ever helped, not just Frank, the guards, or the law team. He wasn't mad at them. He was mad at himself for believing they were good. He stopped talking because he wanted to be alone. He wouldn't leave his cell unless he had to. He sat for hours and looked through the bars at the yard where he had been beaten. It was like he was going over his sentence over and over again. A study from the American Psychological Association says that within 6 months, 42% of prisoners who are physically and mentally abused lose their sense of who they are. This is a great description of Rick Harrison. He used to work on building his image, but now he had lost all power and couldn't figure out who he was. The torture went deeper into his thoughts than into his body. There were signs that Rick was getting lost. He put his name wrong on a health form once, and when he was called in for a checkup, he got lost in the wrong apartment building. The jail doctor said these were typical signs of PTSD, which is a long-term state of stress caused by extreme fear. Rick said, "Everywhere is the same," when asked if he wanted to be moved to a different jail. Professionals say that phrase shows a man who doesn't trust anything, not even himself. Rick Harrison used to be able to easily negotiate a Japanese katana sword that was 500 years old on national TV, but now, he can't control his feelings. It's terrible that he has lost control of his surroundings, his will to fight, and most of all his sense of who he is. Rick's fall isn't just due to legal problems or the effects of being attacked twice in jail. It is the fall of a system that was built on long-standing mistakes in the way he thinks and sees himself and his place in society. 3 important things need to be looked at in order to understand why a man who was once very successful has been having a hard time. The weight of ambition, the allure of fame, and the false belief that one is immune to harm is a mental state that many famous people experience. Rick Harrison is not only a successful businessman, but he has also been a known face on American TV for more than 10 years. He is the perfect example of a working-class person who has made it on their own. Porn Stars is one of the most popular reality TV shows on the History Channel. People in more than 150 countries watch it every week. Rick not only runs a jewelry shop, but he also stands for the idea that smarts and hard work are all you need to build a huge business. His fame is both a benefit and a problem. It makes people avoid him as soon as he gets to jail. Rick is not just another prisoner to his fellow inmates. He is money, power, and admiration, all of which they have been refused. That makes him the best person to show who is boss and get back at life. For making the prison leadership angry. Fame can be good and bad at the same time. In a free world, it means chances, money, and respect, but it only makes you a target in jail. Rick didn't get it. He went to prison to protect his image, but it was too good for him to lose. Every hit, every mean look, was the system's way of punishing a famous person who dared to go to the lost world. Rick Harrison was a smart businessman, but as his company grew, he started to do things that were illegal or unethical. The investigation found that Rick Harrison ran or had ties to at least 9 different businesses, besides his porn shop. He sent large amounts of money to these businesses through secret offshore accounts. His lawyers said that using a porn shop as a front for money laundering and his claimed involvement in human trafficking was not just a mistake or a breach of trust. It happened because many leaders thought, "I'm smart enough to beat the system, and I'm the only one who can do that." Ambition isn't always bad, but when it's not limited by morals and the law, it can become a sense of self-power that makes you think you're above the rules. Rick isn't the only one who does this wrong. This trend has been seen before with CEOs like Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos and celebrities like Lori Loughlin in the college admissions scandal. These people think that their success protects them from anything bad that might happen.